Hi, I'm Scott Varley. I was a 33-year photojournalist for Southern California newspapers, and currently I'm a police crime scene photographer for a local police department. Killing pictures is just part of my life. I love it. I went to Palomar College in San Marcos for 3 years, junior college. Took all the photography classes, all my general ed classes, and then I transferred to Long Beach State in '85 and majored in photojournalism. So for 13 years, from '87 to 2000, I was in San Diego. I was the photo editor and director of photography there. We ushered in the digital era in the late '90s and went to 100% digital by 1997, I believe. In 2000, I left to come up to the Daily Breeze in Torrance and worked at the Breeze for 20 years until 2020. The photography part's fun, but it's the job classification of a photojournalist that's funner. Telling a story visually, meeting people and telling their story through my pictures. There is no typical day. Every day is different. You could have maybe 3 assignments a day, a portrait, a breaking news, and a high school water polo game to wrap it up, or you could have no assignments. There's a lot of days like that, and days that you don't have assignments, you're just supposed to go out and drive around and look for things, look for interesting pictures. Things that would make it a tough job would be the things you have to photograph. People in grief, tragic situations would make it difficult. Deadline pressure makes it, some people just can't do deadline pressure. You know, it's something where maybe you have a 9:30 deadline, but the basketball game maybe doesn't start until 9 o'clock. And you've got to make pictures and then edit, crop, caption, upload by 9:30. So that's what's fun. I love that pressure. Assignments that I've enjoyed the most are experiences that are unique probably, that most people don't get to do, but I get to do that for them and photograph it. Things like flying in the Goodyear blimp. I've done that 3 or 4 times. And it's not an e-ticket ride by any means, but it's something that people don't get to do, so it's fun. Flying in helicopters, flying in B-17 bombers when they come through Long Beach and Torrance every year, and going to things like Stanley Cup finals and NBA finals and Rose Bowl games, and being on the court, not just in the stands, but literally sitting on the basketball court for an NBA final. The fun thing that made the job fun was that I was never satisfied with what I shot at the end of the day. I always wanted to get better. I would edit my photos and say, boy, I wish I would have done it this way, especially on portraits. I wish I would have lit it this way, or you're never satisfied. I mean, it's a great photo, or a very good photo, but the thing about striving to be better is what made the job fun. It's always wanting to improve your skills by studying your work, or by looking at what other people are doing and saying, oh, now that's a good approach right there. That's what I enjoyed, is always never being satisfied and always wanting to be better tomorrow. A good photo really depends on the subject's expression, their eyes. That will tell, especially in sports. If you don't have good eyes on a person batting or running with the ball or something, if they're looking away, it's not a photo. You need to see that emotion. And so whether it's sort of a triangle between the person's eyes, maybe the ball, and something else, that helps tell a story. I mean, we shoot thousands of pictures at a game, and may only have a half hour to edit those down and transmit 15, 20 pictures on deadline, but the good ones stand out. When you shoot sports, when the play ends, you don't put your camera down, because a lot of times your best photos come from a reaction from a player like this. This was the Clipper game. I don't know, he's probably reacting to a bad call or a foul or something, but when the whistle blows the play dead, don't put your camera down. Keep looking for photos, because some of the best photos come when the action isn't happening. And this is just a reaction. You know, it's just interesting. He's got his mouthpiece out and he's making a weird face. And I mean, clearly he's not happy with whatever just happened. Well, this was back in the black and white days. I was working for the Del Mar Citizen and Encinitas Citizen, which was a 3 times a week paper. And it was just a high school wrestling match. And I just remember all these high schools were terribly lit. But this one had a big white circle in the center of the mat, which reflected light back up into the wrestler's face, which it's just, and again, as I was saying about eyes and the emotion on the face is what makes a photo. And here you've got the top wrestler looking at the ref saying, you know, I've got him, or maybe he's looking at his coach or something. And the guy on the bottom he's just trying to figure out life right there. That is Cadillac Ranch just outside of Amarillo, Texas. It's 10 maybe Cadillacs that are buried up to their noses, up to the windshield years ago. And I was on a road trip documenting Route 66. And it's just this weird art piece where people are encouraged to bring spray paint cans and spray paint the heck out of these cars. And one person will do some great artwork. 10 minutes later, somebody will come in behind them and cover it back up with something else. And it's an ever-evolving, I mean, there's the paint on those cars is very thick. This is Angels Gate Park, the Korean Friendship Bell in San Pedro. And it's just a great park with this basketball court that is right on the edge of the sort of sloping cliff. And at certain times of the year, or really when there's no clouds, it can just make great silhouettes, because I'm looking to the west here. These guys are playing and the light was perfect, and I knew I wanted to make a silhouette, so I backed up way down the parking lot with, I think, probably like a 500mm lens just to get that compression there. And I had a whole bunch of photos that could have worked, but this guy by himself, just, you know, that far from the rim, just made it a perfect shot, I think. So in 2020, right about a year ago, I answered an ad, and I was hired last year to be a police crime scene photographer for a local police agency. And it's a big change. I'm now on the inside of the police tape as opposed to being on the outside. And it doesn't mean being on the inside is better. Sometimes being on the outside is better. But as a police crime scene photographer, it's very interesting. We photograph homicide scenes, fatal traffic accidents, major traffic accidents, some burglaries, robberies, assaults with deadly weapons, photograph search warrants, executions, and we document. It's very simple photography. We document crime scenes, we document evidence, how it is in relation to the scene, detail shots, and our photographs are used by the investigators and the detectives to refresh their memories on the crime scene, and also to provide during the trial, if there's a trial, as evidence. So it's really important. And we don't do any editing to our photos. We don't delete any photos. Everything gets stored as record for that incident, and we don't do any Photoshop work to at all. So there's no tainting of anything. It's very straightforward photography. Now, the camera gear that I use in police work is a lot different than what I would use as a news photographer, because I'm really only using one camera and one lens. I use a 24 to 105mm lens, and I use a Canon 5D, I want to say, Mark IV, as opposed to carrying 2 or 3 camera bodies and multiple lenses as a news photographer. But the things that we carry as a police photographer are different in that I carry hazmat suits, I carry full face and half mask respirators for whether it's tear gas situation or bad odors that I want to not smell. I carry, I shoot everything on a tripod. When I work at night primarily, so we're doing a lot of time exposure, We do a lot of painting with light, with flashlights to help light a scene. Well, this is just the gear that I use now I still freelance for the newspaper because I missed it. Days off from the police department, I still want to be creative and have some fun. So this is just kind of the gear that I use now. It's changed over the years. I switched from Nikon to Sony, and so I've got 4 lenses and 2 bodies. Nikon, or I'm sorry, this is a Sony a7 III with a 14 to 24 zoom. I've got a Sony a9 with a 70 to 200, which is a great setup. And then I've just got some more 24 to 105 and a couple of flashes. And then for doing sports or other things, this is a 200 to 600 zoom lens. And it's just a simple kit now, and I have just a couple of strobes that I use remotes, and then I have in my car that I have more studio lights that I bring. But this is just, if I'm going to go to a Laker game, or I don't do that now, but this is in the car and it just ready to roll out, or just take what I need. A lot of times, as I got older, I just started carrying the minimum of what I would need. I didn't need to bring everything with me when I knew I was only going to need these 2 lenses perhaps. So it's kind of simplified now. I've just got it down to the lenses that I need. I don't need, there's still some things I would love to get, but I'm not shooting a whole lot with this stuff anymore. Occasional freelance assignments. I'm going to shoot a portrait later today, but it's just, when I started out, we didn't have zoom lenses. We had fixed prime lenses. So I had probably 3 camera bodies and 9 lenses, you know, from 15 millimeter to 600 millimeter, and it was a lot of switching back and forth. Now that the zooms are so good, you only need 3 lenses. You need the wide zoom and the middle zoom, and then the kind of the 70 to 200 range, and then everything else on top of that is just kind of gravy. But keep it simple. It's just camera gear. It's not, you know, people say, oh, one of the worst things is when people say, that's a great photo. You must have a really good camera. No, cameras are cameras. I mean, there's good cameras and bad cameras, but cameras are just tools. They aren't anything, you know, really, because we can make photos. A good photographer make photos with any camera. This just makes it easier. So we're going to go up to downtown, and there's an artist who I'm going to take some photos of. He's a friend of mine, but he needs some photos, some portraits for a magazine that's doing a feature on him. And he's a very talented artist and got some great things that he makes out of recycled materials. And so he's just going to make some portraits. For the paper, I mean, we'll have a brief description of who this person is. You know, we're going to do a portrait of. The worst thing to do to a photographer is to say, take a picture of Sally Jones at this address at this time. I don't know anything. I can't start thinking about what I'm going to do, because if it says, oh, she's a sculptor who does this and this, and okay, now I'm thinking. Now I have ideas in my mind that I want to do. It's all going to change as soon as I get there, because it's not going to be how I'm envisioning it. But I'm always thinking about how I'm going to photograph it as I'm driving to the scene or to the appointment.
I kind of want to just look up at
okay,
that,
look up at the tusk at the end. Yeah, look up at the top of the jelly. There we go, right there. Coming into frame here, looking into the camera.
I use a program called Photomechanic to do my editing, and this is a shoot I did earlier today of artist Richard Wilkes at his studio in downtown LA. And I'm just going to go through just a quick browse just to see how things look, and then I'll come through and do another tighter edit. So let's just see. These first shots were just lighting tests to see how things looked as I dialed it in, and it's still a little hot here, and then I dialed it in here. So I'm going to go through and pick out a few that I want to include, want to take a look at closer. So I'll just go through and give it a quick color code. We wanted to get some pictures of the artist here with his equipment that he uses. He uses a lot of recycled plastics for his artwork, and this is the machines that he's made to melt plastic and grind plastic and extrude plastic tubes. So we wanted to convey some of him and his environment here. These look nice here. I like the we let the dark background go a little darker, put the light on him and his equipment. And I'm just going to go through here and color tag some of these. I added a couple more lights in this frame here, a little more side lighting. So there's 3 lights I'm using. And I'm just going to go through and select some of these that I want to look at again. Went back here with a little longer lens to shoot these. I don't think they work as well, but we'll take a look. And then we did some of these here with his some of his plastics that he uses to created this element here on his wall, and we scattered some plastic on the floor that I wanted to include in the foreground like we did here, just to give it some dimension. And I'll go through here. Shot this with a 14mm lens, 14 to 24 zoom, but it was shot at 14 at these wide shots here, so it's such a big art piece. And down to the end here. Then I went to finish it off just shooting some available light. Turned all the flashes off. Looks all right there also. And then we incorporated some of his other artwork in this photo using LEDs inside of his plastic. So that's it for that. I'm just going to go through and do a second edit here and do some that I want to work on here. And that's it. So I've selected 19. What I'm going to do here now is open these up into Photoshop and work on them. So they won't take a whole lot of work, and I don't do a tremendous amount. I do a lot of color correction and toning. I might bring out some of the darker areas and simple things like that, but I don't spend a lot of time on photographs. If I shoot them right, if I expose them right, then they'll just take a matter of minutes to edit. And the artist here, he's going to do some work on his own to the picture, so I'm not going to do a whole lot to him. So I'll show you when I get done here. I shoot from today and narrowed it down to these as, I guess, my final selections. I would still edit it down a little bit tighter just to get maybe 2 from each setup. But these are the ones that stood out to me the most, and I liked them. I like the lighting on them. I like the composition. We've got all the elements that we needed in there. Just nice portraits, well lit. And These are a little bit brighter with that white wall, but we get the idea of the artist here. He uses plastics and recyclables to create his artwork, his sculptures, and his different pieces that he shows. And so I think he was my client, so we were doing what he wanted shot, and I think we got some nice ones of them here. I would still go into Photoshop or Lightroom and do some more work on them, but he's going to do a lot of the work himself on them. So we're just going to leave it at this. It was a quick shoot and a quick edit, and that's the name of the day for this. So thank you.
To be a successful photojournalist, you want to first be a talented photographer. You don't have to be a great photographer, but you have to be good at portraits, sports, breaking news. You have to be good at a lot of different types of photography, because there are portrait photographers, there are fine art photographers, but a photojournalist, you have to be good at all of these things. Now, some people on newspaper staff specialize in portraits, in sports, in feature photos, and documentary style, but be well-rounded, have a good portfolio that shows that you can do a little bit of everything well. That's probably the first thing. You want to have a passion to tell people's stories. You want to tell their stories. One thing that we do as news photographers is the people who don't have a voice, maybe they're a migrant worker or something, who feel they don't have a voice. Working with the reporter, the photographer, and the reporter team can really just help that person get their story out. And that's what's fun, is when you do a story, something like that, where somebody is getting beat down by the system, and you do a story on, and then the community reacts and helps support this person. That's when you know you've done a good job, when the community reacts. Basically, to be a good photographer, you need to know the basics of photography, the composition, the rule of thirds, how to frame a portrait, how to light a portrait. It's so key. There's too many photographers maybe starting out who have their flash on their camera, and it's just direct flash, and that's the worst thing in the world. It just destroys light. It's no good. So the ability to light photographs and compose photographs is basic, but it's key. That should come with the territory. While you're documenting a subject, and like I said before, when the play ends or when you think that the shot is over, always keep shooting through the event, through the action, because sometimes your best photo doesn't come at the peak moment, but 10 seconds later, when you think it's all over. Just always be ready, always be prepared. Never just set your camera down. Always have it with you, ready to go.